So we move to something very, very important also for sustainable, inclusive development and for life. That it's about peace. How come on earth we think about development if we are fighting against each other and destroying not just the source of well-being of the planet, but destroying even our own lives? So to help us in moving towards action, remember this is moving towards action, also a very distinguished panelist, so is Stephen Hecht. He's co-founder and chief executive Peacemaker, Million Peacemakers. Well, he has a long, long trajectory on business and also on peace building. He's co-author of the bestseller Non-Conflict, The Art of Everyday Peacemaking. So I think I have a copy down underneath, but do you have a copy of that? Then it's a Million Peacemakers is a non-profit organization which empowers people to transform conflict to non-conflict. So you're transforming conflict to non-conflict, okay? And he won different awards and he's very famous. And we're very honored to have him here with us. And you're going to show, well, how can we promote a peaceful development? So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Esteemed guests, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
What a great reminder that we just had the urgency of taking action. Because we don't know how long we have. And let's all remember that we can maximize the impact, we need to maximize the impact we have while we're on this earth. In the last 2 days, we've been talking about the need for real dialogue. And when we have that dialogue, which we require to achieve any of our SDGs, we inevitably will have conflict. So what we've developed is a tool to deal with conflict constructively. It's a simple yet powerful three-step process, which we call non-conflict. There was no word for resolved conflict, we had to come up with our own. Allow me to share with you the story of how I went from a business person to a peacemaker. And appropriately, it started about 10 years ago at an inter-religious, interfaith event. I was always interested and challenged by the verse in Leviticus 19 and Mark 12:30, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, how do you love your neighbor if you don't know them? If you know them, if you don't know them, you don't like them. And if you don't like them, how can you love them? So I decided to try bring this verse to life. I was a member, and I still am a member, of a business group called YPO that's in about 130 countries. And just recently, by the way, adopted the 5 Ps that we're working on. So we took our members and their spouses and young adults, who are so important, to a Catholic church, and then a mosque, and then an Orthodox synagogue, my synagogue. And at the synagogue, the moderator asked very tough questions of the rabbi, priest, and imam. When he got to the imam's question, it was, why is it invariably Muslim people blowing themselves up, killing innocent women and children in the name of Islam? It was very tense. The imam's answer was, I could start by talking about our differences, and I might never get to our similarities. Or I could start by talking about what our 3 religions have in common with each other. And maybe, just maybe, the differences would take care of themselves. We pray to the same God, the 3 of us. We believe in the same Holy Land. Abraham was our forefather and yours, so we're related by blood. And when he started talking about those commonalities, the tension in the room, which was very high, went way down. The 3 of them started joking with each other. To finish the evening, we had people around each table stand up and hold hands while the rabbi, priest, and imam said a prayer for peace. I was holding Father John's hand. his hands were trembling. Looking around the room, there were tears in people's eyes. We went from not knowing our neighbor to love in 4 hours. So that event was really powerful for me, and then and for our members, and they asked me to chair the education program. Oh, I should maybe share a slide. There's the Rabbi Peace and Imam, and that's when we were all holding our hands together. And then they asked me to chair the education program for the entire Canadian region, and I wanted to take the learning of that event a step further to action. A lot of us had conflict in our lives. I've had a lot of conflict in my life, and I was also interested in inter or geopolitical conflict. And I thought I would bring in an expert to teach us how to resolve conflicts. And I bought a dozen books on the topic, and I found them very difficult to get through. They're typically by PhDs for PhDs, very academic. No offense to PhDs, there are a few in the room, sorry. But I had a hard time reading them. I'm not an academic, and we needed something very practical that we could apply in our own lives, where we don't have to read the 950-page handbook, no offense, on resolving a conflict. So around that time, I was introduced to Dr. Amir Kafir, who had brought together very conflicting groups of Turks and Armenians, Israelis and Arabs, Greeks and Turks, and American Jews and Muslims. And Amir agreed to work on this event, and together with a team of academics and practitioners, he created a 3-step model called Nonflict, which is so simple. It fits on the back of a card, which you could all have after. And we shared this with a group of 700 YPOers and spouses and young adults, our future and our present. And it totally transformed their lives. The conflicts that they had been dealing with, which were very emotional and hard, they were resolving right there and then. So I thought that was cool. Let me try it on a tougher conflict. Let me go out of my own comfort zone as a Canadian Jew to the West Bank, the other side of the wall. We met with, my wife and stepson and I went there, and we met with a group of Palestinian activist women in a co-op in Kalandia, in the refugee camp. The founder, the 84-year-old, first question to me was, "You're from Canada. Your prime minister did not accept us as a state in the UN. What did the Palestinians do against Canadians?" I thought hard for a minute. And my answer was, that's true, our prime minister did that, but I'm not a politician. I'm a business person that travels around the world. And all that I and the people I meet know about you is what we hear about in the media. Would you be willing to share your true stories that I could then share when I travel? And she said, okay. We went around the table and they shared their stories, and I took them through the 3 steps of the Nonflict way, which is to understand ourselves and the other, to understand our shared reality, and then to co-create our ideal reality. By the time we got to the last step, and the question is, what could we do to overcome the obstacles that we could control or influence? The founder came. She hugged my wife, Naomi, and she looked at me in the eye and said, "Thank you for being a friend to the Palestinians. We like what we learned. We're going to use it with our husbands." But more importantly, we are prepared to meet 15 Jewish Israeli women. And if you could get Obama, Netanyahu, and a bus in a room, we mothers will let them out till there's a deal. At that point, I realized I had a gift in my hand that I needed to share. They were willing to take a huge risk for freedom. So I left my career in real estate development and co-founded a nonprofit called Million Peacemakers. Our vision is 1 million people co-creating a culture of peace in the world. By the way, I registered billion the same day as million, so we'll just have a party and change our name. We're working on it. Imagine 1 million people. We're up to about 145,000 so far in 4 years. And we believe in partnerships. We need that. We worked with a group in India, for example, called Sakal Media, Ajit Pawar, who after using it with his company, said, I want to make a difference in Maharashtra province, where Mumbai is. He's out of Pune, and we trained over 100,000 women to be empowered to make a difference in their lives, in their personal lives, and then in their communities by taking action to make a difference using this process. He found it so successful, he then duplicated that with college students in this province in a program called Young Inspirators. We've trained about 24,000 college students in the last 2 years. So it's really having impact in the ground, which is very cool. Since then, we've also gone around the world with it, pretty much. The book is in Spanish now, and Marathi for the people in Maharashtra province, and Hebrew. We're working on Arabic and French right now, and I was in Japan recently. They want a Japanese version. We'll get there. I want to share you a story. One of the other groups I work with is at McGill, the International Community Action Network, ICANN. We bring together students from the Middle East to do their Masters of Social Work. I hosted the first retreat to teach them conflict. They were right off of the plane. We went around doing introductions. The person on the right, Amit, said, I'm Amit, and I am a Jewish Israeli Zionist. The person on the left said, I'm Adnan, and I'm a Muslim Syrian. And all I know about you is you are the enemy. You're not to be trusted. Amit said, all I know about you is you are the enemy, not to be trusted. So I paired them up to do nothing. And I stood by to watch. Within about 10 minutes, they realized the commonality they shared, that they both had lost older brothers in the conflict. That commonality brought them together, and they became brothers in peace, which they still are to this day. I was just with them last week, actually. To finish, we believe that there is a great opportunity with religious leaders here to really transform your congregations. If you share this, imagine the difference you can make right now by sharing effective ways of resolving conflict with your congregations. With young couples about to get married, how they could then have a much smoother and conflict-free or harmonious relationship in marriage and be better role models to their children. And that would grow exponentially from generation to generation, because we learned from our parents how to deal with conflict. So it can have a huge impact right away. We'd be honored to partner with any of you on achieving any of your SDGs, and I believe truly that together we can transform the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stephen Hecht. Again, share, recognize each other. Our uncle was telling us, share values, even to apply our finances, share hospitality, and share common home, encounter with each other, and a shared destiny. From Massimo, no? We are all going to die, but we share life. And also, well, what we have in common. This is very, very important for what's coming up next. So I encourage you in your very, very short working groups, let's try what we can have in common. Let's not waste time in discussing what, oh yeah, I don't agree with that. But the only thing I can synthesize your presentation is with a phrase that's from the New Testament, that is, happy the peacemakers. And then we move on to our last